Hi everyone, it's Kirsten Magpie's YouTube channel. Welcome back to another video on my channel. In today's video, I'll be doing my round 17 tips and previews, and I'll go over my round 16 tips as well. If you are returning Kirsten Magpies, welcome, like, comment, share. If you're new to the channel, watch this for the first time, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Did pretty well. Did get a few tips wrong, but also did get a few right. So let's get straight in. I did get a few tips wrong and I did get a few tips right, so let's have a look at it, shall we? Now, pick the Brisbane Lions, get the job done. I thought that was pretty good. The Bulldogs got the job done from mine. Pick the Swans and I lost by a point. Pick Collingwood, pure base, I can't trust Go-Go's. I picked the Giants thinking that surely they have to be Adelaide. Picked the Bombers to get the job done against the Cats, well, I was wrong on that. Picked the Saints thinking they would get the job done, finally beat the Power. Unfortunately, Adelaide would, just got over the line there. Carlton got that tip right and also picked the Eagles. So, round 17 tips and previews. We have Collingwood versus Essendon Friday night. It's a massive game between the two teams. Collingwood coming off 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, or Essendon 2 wins and 3 losses as well in recent months. Now, yes, we've had 2 great wins against Melbourne and North Melbourne. We also lost to the Bulldogs and the Suns in that period, and we also drew against the Dockers as well. While Essendon defeated the Tigers by 12 points, lost to the Suns by 11, lost to Carlton by 26 points, defeated the Eagles by 30 points and also lost by 45 points against Geelong. Now, $1.52 to $2.53 favourites Collingwood and Essendon. So one thing we do know between these two teams is that Collingwood are a much better team than what Essendon are. I know that the latter doesn't always reflect on that. Don't forget Collingwood did come off the bye. And also the fact is that, yes, Essendon did lose. Unfortunately, so did we. So there's not much that you can do. Essendon had a great win against the Eagles. They like to attack through the corridor and really keep that pressure on. One thing that we do know is they don't play well against top 8 teams at all. So they've lost to the Swans. They lost to the Blues. They lost to the Cats. They also lost to Brisbane, and I'm pretty sure Port Adelaide as well, considering the fact is that it is pretty much a dangerous thing as well. So we do know that round 1, that Essendon did defeat the Hawks. They weren't in the 8 at the time. They lost to the Swans back then by 30 points. They also just defeat the Saints, and then the Saints, they were in front too, but that was a comeback from behind win. They got smacked by the Power. That was the loss they had at the Adelaide Oval. Lost to the Crow. They defeated the Bulldogs, which they weren't in the 8 at all. They lost to the Adelaide Crows, which is pretty disappointing. In their aspect, they drew against us, obviously on Anzac Day, and then this is where it happens. They just defeated the Eagles by kick, at Optus Stadium. They just defeated the Giants, who I think currently aren't in the 8, so it doesn't really count as obviously being a top 8 team. And then this is where they smacked the North Melbourne. To be fair, North Melbourne are pretty, rebuilding team. They just defeated the Tigers at Dreamtime at the G. And then, obviously, they lost to the Suns, who aren't in the top 8. And then they lost to the Blues, who are in the top 8. So there you go. And then you look at when they had their bye, and then coming off the bye again, they defeated the Eagles. So they haven't won against top 8 teams as well. And then also another top 8 team in Geelong, who were horribly out of form. But having known that, known in recent meetings was a draw in round 7. Collingwood have dominated the Bombers ever since. Collingwood have won 4 of the last 5. Now, if you go outside of the Anzac Day games, these are generally pretty decent games, as we all know that it can be. So this is why I think with Collingwood versus Essendon, the history is such superb. And as we know, that this is going to be a massive game. Now, the last time that we played Essendon outside of the Anzac Day game was last year in the last game of the season when we won by 70 points. And then before that, we had obviously a kick after the siren to win thanks to Jamie Elliott in round 19 2022. And then after that, they defeated us by about 38 points in the end in round 23 2021, and that was a COVID-affected season. And then obviously in round 5 2020, they defeated us by 15 points as well. But in round 23 2019, we defeated the Bombers by 11 points. Now, the last time that we played Essendon as an Anzac Day game and then played them at our home game was round 23 2019. Now, obviously, in the Anzac Day game that we won, so obviously that we drew against them, which is probably crucial as well. But then, knowing that, also round 16 2018, we beat them by 16 points as well. So we are coming off pretty good form. We did defeat them on Anzac Day, and then obviously lost by 37 points in round 16 of 2017, and then lost to them by 18 points on Anzac Day. And then I think since then, we may have only played them once in 2016 round 5 we absolutely smacked them, and then round 23 2015 they only defeat us by 3 points as well, which was the last time they beat us in a home and away game when it's our home game, when outside of the Anzac Day game. And I'm pretty sure that we did beat them in 2015 as well. So, that was obviously different when we won by 20 points. So, it is a lot different. We have been smacked around 2014, and also that we did defeat them by 23 points in round 6 as well. And then round 19, 2013, we defeated the Bombers as well. So it is generally good history to know about this. It's going to be the battle of the midfield. Look, as I said, this is going to be an interesting game. Having said that too, I am more confident of beating Essendon because of that record. That's the difference, in my opinion. So in that aspect, I'm going to pick the Pies. I think our midfield will get the job done. I think with John DeGorry, Scott Pendlebury, second game back, I think we'll be alright. I know we've lost a few, but Lockie Schultz will come in, and whatever what we decide, I'll do a full preview of that particular game. I'm going to say Collingwood will get the job done by 18 points. I do think it'll be a tight game, but will not be surprised if we absolutely blow them out the park. North Melbourne versus the Gold Coast Suns at Marvel Stadium. Now, as we know, between the two teams, North Melbourne haven't really played that particularly well. They've had the one win, but then Gold Coast has only had 2 wins and 3 losses. So they haven't been in great form. Now, as we know, they don't travel well away. Now, we know they lost to the Saints at Marvel Stadium. That was the last time that they played at Marvel Stadium and they lost. But they're playing North Melbourne, who are a far improving team. So one thing I will say with that as well is that this is a different ball game. Now we know they defeated North Melbourne at TR Stadium in round 9, but I think this is a lot different. As we know that North Melbourne tend to jump the Suns when they least expected. As we know, round 22, round 23, 2022 was the last time that the Gold Coast Suns defeated North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Within that, so to be fair, I know that the Gold Coast Suns have won probably 4 of the last 5, but I cannot trust the Gold Coast Suns away from home, and that is a concern for me. Yes, they should be winning this game, but having said that, North Melbourne's won 1 game, but if you look at North Melbourne, they were competitive. Yeah, they lost badly to Port Adelaide, forget that. That's only 1 bad game, but they've been competitive in all their games. In the last 4 games that they played, they have been so competitive. They're 54 points up against us, and we beat them by a point. They came from over 30 points down against Melbourne, and they just lost by 3. 38 points and only lost by 17 points. And then they've defeated the Eagles. The Gold Coast Suns, to me, aren't as good as what everyone thinks that they are. And they are one-trick ponies. They like to perform well at home, they don't perform well away. So in that aspect, I am going to pick North Melbourne to get the job done. I think their midfield will get easily first hands to it. I do expect that Jarrod Wicks will be out of this game, as we know that he will miss this week against North Melbourne. But having said that, Damien Hardwick doesn't like to travel at Marvel Stadium. He does hate the ground as well. He hates coming here at Marvel Stadium. So I'm going to say North Melbourne by 20 points in a real upset. I know they're outside favourites, but having said that too, the record at Marvel Stadium with Damien Hardwick as coaching isn't as great, and they hate coming here. And funny enough, that it was against the Gold Coast Suns that I did lose to. So it does become interesting in that. And that's probably like the last time that they've won at Marvel Stadium as well. Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs up at the Adelaide Oval. Now this is a massive game for both teams. Port Adelaide are favourites. Aren't favourites, they're outsiders in this. $2.08 compared to $1.78 as well. Can you trust Port Adelaide? That's the only issue that you probably get. They've won 2, Port Adelaide, and they've lost 3. Yes, they got over the line against the Saints, but they've been poor in 3 of those games. Yes, they beat North Melbourne, but they're playing against North Melbourne, who were struggling at the time. This team is different. Well, the Bulldogs, they defeated us, they defeated Fremantle, and then they defeated North Melbourne as well. So, well, they've done that. They did lose to Brisbane, and they did lose to the Swans up at Marvel Stadium, but they tend to play pretty decent at the Adelaide Oval as well. They did defeat them in 2021 in a prelim final as well. So, you probably will think that the Power will get the job done. But having said that too, the Bulldogs can play really good football whenever they need to. And people will go, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But you look at the Bulldogs at Port Adelaide Twin, round 13, 2023, they won by 22 points. And then they only won by 2 points at Marvel Stadium. The games that they've lost to, theoretically, and they did, and yes, they won by 14 points at the Adelaide Oval back in round 5, 2023. Round 8, 2022, Port Adelaide won by 17 points. So, okay, you give them that win. But the Dogs did defeat them by 71 points. So the Bulldogs will test themselves out with this sort of game. Now, I expect the Bulldogs to be a fast team. I expect them to really come out firing. Their midfield will fire. I think their forward line will fire up as well. And I'm going to back in the Dogs to win by 7 points. Geelong versus Hawthorn at GMHBA Stadium. I am concerned in this particular game. There's reasons why I say that. Hawthorn have been on fire, and the loss that they had against the Power, they were over 40 points in front that they could have really won. But Geelong have only won 2 of the last 5 games. They lost to the Giants at home. They did lose to the Swans. They lost to Carlton at the G, and yes, they did defeat the Bombers. But you have a look at the form that people expect of Geelong. They lost by 30 points at the SCG. They also just got the job done against Richmond. Theoretically, that was the win that they've had. Round 11, they had pretty much a convincing look. They only lost by 4 points. So that's something that nobody expected. They got smacked by the Suns as well. They lost to the Power at home by a kick, and that was over a 40-point game. And then, this is where it becomes interesting for the Cats. They lost to the D's by 8 points in a real tight one at the G. And then, therefore, they defeated the Blues by 13 points. Okay, you give them a tick for that. But then, this is where I would look at their team, and I would think that they maybe not be as good as what they think they are as well. So, yes, they did defeat the Lions by 26 points, but that's when Brisbane were struggling. And then, obviously, they've had games against North Melbourne, which they won at home. And then, obviously, as we know, they just defeated the Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval when they were in control. And then, obviously, they did defeat the Hawks by 36 points. And that's when Hawthorn were 0-2, but Hawthorn a much better team as well. Then they defeated the Crows by 19 points at the Adelaide Oval. And in round 1, as we know, they just defeated the Saints by 8 points. So they've won a few games at GMHBA Stadium. They have dropped a fair bit. I'm going to say the Hawks, I think, are in much better form. I say the Hawks win by 15 points. Look, as much as I want to pick Geelong, I just can't trust them enough. Giants versus the Blues, Saturday night. Might be streaming this game. I think it's on the Channel 7 game, I'm pretty sure. It's 10th versus 2nd. Now, this is an important game for the Giants because they're outside the 8 as we speak. But the Giants can beat teams like Carlton. Now, we know last time these two sides met, Carlton won by 19 points at Marvel Stadium. But the Giants have had a fair crack at beating teams up. We know Carlton have won 4 of the last 5. The Giants did defeat them at Marvel Stadium back in round 24, 2023 as well. But Giants are the team that can get going pretty quickly. They can compete against a team against Carlton as well. Look, having said that too, I do feel like the Giants only have lost 3 when they've won 2. It would be easy to pick Carlton, but something tells me as well that they are probably due for a loss. You're not going to go through a season with the massive winning streak. You are going to lose games, and I think the Giants will be hungry. Now, as we know with the Giants is that they are a much hungry team when they often up and about. They did lose to the Crows, which they would be disappointing. But then they can turn around. They lost to the Swans. That's their form patch. And then they defeat the Power as well. So I'm going to say the Giants just because it is at home. But I would not be surprised if it's anything that I think will be the battle midfield, not Josh Kelly, but I do think that Giants midfields can stand up. I think that backline can stand up as well, and I think it'll be the battle of the midfield for sure, but the Giants by 19 points. Fremantle versus Tigers up at Optus Stadium. Now, this is a huge game for both teams. Now, Richmond are 17th compared to the Dockers, 3rd on the ladder. Who can believe it? I'm clearly going to back in Fremantle to get the job done. I think their forward structure will be too good. I think their midfield will be a lot better. I'm going to say the Dockers by 40 points as well. Melbourne versus the Eagles at the MCG 110 in this contest. Now, last time these two sides met was round 10 of this year, where the Eagles won by 35 points. But it's been all Melbourne, and that's been the difference in the end. West Coast did win at Optus Stadium in round 1 2020. So that's probably the only 2 wins that they've had out of the last 5 matches. They have been smacked purely based on that. Now, they haven't played at the MCG at all for a while now. We know Melbourne are struggling with form a little bit. They've won 2 of the last 5. The Eagles haven't won since probably the win that they only had. So, again, you think Melbourne's midfield would be better at the G. To be honest, they aren't as good as scoring as much as they should. Yes, they did score 81 points, but that is only an outline. Because if they can't beat the Eagles at the MCG, considering that West Coast want to attack, Melbourne like to be defensive as well, that's going to be a huge problem for both teams on who can get on top. I'm confident that the D's will win. I think their midfield should be far too good. They've got some injuries, as we know, but having said that, I am going to say the D's to get the job done by 29 points. I think West Coast will be very competitive as well. The Saints versus the Swans up at Marvel Stadium. I think this is the pride match that they've had. St Kilda did win by 14 points at the SCG round 13 2023. That's probably the decent wins that they've had, but I think previously at Marvel Stadium that they did defeat the Swans by 29 points round 21 2021 as well. And then obviously the Swans did defeat the Saints round 23 2022 by 14 points as well. I think the Swans are going to be too good, unfortunately. I think the Swans would just get over the line. I'm going to say 16 points in a real tight game as well, considering that. And the Lions versus the Crows, can you believe it? Adelaide $4.45, Brisbane $1.21. This should be the game where Brisbane can finally get the job done. It is 8th versus 14th. Now, last time these sides met was a draw at the Adelaide Oval. Brisbane have won a few tight games as well. They did win by a kick and then a draw. But they haven't played the Gabba often. It has been just at the Adelaide Oval. So having said that, I'm confident that Brisbane have had really good winning streaks. They've won 3 of the last 5. But having said that, I think Brisbane should be too good for the Adelaide Crows. I'm going to say 35 points for the Brisbane Lions to get the job done in a battle of the forward line. I think Brisbane's forward line will be too good for Adelaide's defence. Hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to drop a like as well as dropping a sub. Bye for now.